You grew up helping your mother in her catering business. How did those early years shape your culinary identity?
So my mother was is a very good self-trained cook. She was always in the kitchen. She always took a lot of time to find good ingredients. She outside of working in the catering business, she was always fighting with doctors because we all had eczema and various things that we were struggling with, and she didn't want us to be put on medication. So she was always trying to use food to help us solve our allergies and things. So she saw food as like the answer to helping illness, but then also was always teaching other children how to cook, and then running her catering business. So everything that she did, food was always the center. So I grew up with that perspective, seeing food as a foundation to our understanding of life.
So how did the entrepreneurial journey begin? Because I know it definitely integrated with your work right now, the as the founder of It's to Thrive. So how did that drive to start your own business and create this online platform that is breaking boundaries in the food industry?
I think it started when I decided that I wanted to become a chef, but I, knowing myself, knew that I couldn't do it in the traditional way of spending years in a restaurant and working my way up. I don't do well in the same environment every single day. I thrive in different environments, and I learn quickly through diverse experiences. So I knew that I wanted to cook, but I also wanted to be moving and learning. So I did everything I could to essentially like shape a new way of being a chef. Back that was 12 years ago. So back then, there wasn't a lot of people freelancing. There weren't a lot of chefs that were doing private chef work and things like that. But I just had this thing in my mind where I was like, this is how I'm going to do it. And it was really hard because I didn't have anyone to look up to in that way, or someone who was doing it differently, to, just getting a job in a restaurant and learning through that. So I don't really even know where that came from. That was just what I was going to do. And my career has taken me to some amazing places based on that, but also has brought a lot of hardship with uncertainty, having to learn a lot from myself, having to be very creative about how I put myself out there. So it's been a colorful journey, to say the least. And now it's an interesting time because it feels like all those different experiences are accumulating into this moment now where I'm able to bring all of that knowledge into my platform, and hopefully into various ways of educating people about food. So it's been a very kind of natural evolution. I haven't really had a clear end goal in mind, but I've just known that as long as I'm learning, as long as I'm being able to express myself and understand different lenses and how we see food, then I'm on the right path.
You spoke about creativity. I want to ask, like, how is important is the skill of selling, mastering the arts of actually selling on your online platforms? Because now, when the digital space, digital economy, right, you're using your platform as an e-commerce business, you're selling cuisine foods because it's not very difficult to say, okay, I'm just gonna be making this healthy food and I'm gonna be selling it to different audience, different people, different criteria of people. So you're gonna be using this online service, but how is important is learning how to sell to specific people, different audiences and stuff like that, using
I,
your platform.
yeah, I think, I mean, the thing that I find hardest about being an entrepreneur is you have to have many different hats on at all times. So you have to be an accountant and a social media strategist and a chef, and you are trying to have this generalist kind of understanding of all these different things that it takes to run a small business. So I can't just be like, I'm a chef. Now I am. I'm trying to work out how do I communicate things with people that help shift their habits or change their perspective, or how do I market products which I've never really had to do before. You know, I'm about to bring out a product. I'm talking about pop-up dining events. So now all of a sudden I'm a salesperson, which I've never had to be before, because I used to just get asked to do certain things and then I would go and execute the project, and that would be that. And now I've changed it around where I'm trying to design specific things and share them with the public. So that kind of dynamic has changed. But it's the same thing. It's like I just see everything as an experiment. You try something, it works, you know that works, great. If it doesn't work, you try something else. Like there's no failure or there's no dead end. Everything is a learning opportunity. And if you keep focused with a beginner's mindset, you can't, you know, you're not taking things personally, you're not getting upset, you're just going, okay, that worked and that didn't, and now how do we adjust so that we can keep moving forward.
Robert Kiyosaki talks about you must be, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you must um, become a generalist than to be a specialist. So you cannot be you cannot be only a master of engineering, just know those expertise, but you can just know a little bit about engineering, a little about marketing, a little bit about everything, right? So that you can actually know how the whole ecosystem or the whole machinery works. It's just start that engine, start that car. You know that's okay. Oh, this is how to use the gear. This is how you can use the steering wheel, right? So to actually know how the whole operation moves as an entrepreneur, because if you don't know how the sales, don't know how to talk to the sales team, don't know how to talk to or don't know how to create your own online platform or selling online content, whatever the case may be in your industry. So I think you mentioned a great point there that you're saying you're trying different things, but it's actually you're also learning
Mm.
about your business. You chose to specialize in plant-based cuisine before it was trendy. What inspired you to fully embrace that path?
So I was actually studying at the time, and I was doing a history course that was really interesting. It was shifting how I was thinking about food and how I was thinking about the environment. So it um, yeah, as I was deciding that I wanted to go into food, I was then shown some awful videos about, you know, the factory farming in the US and how they treat the animals and all of that kind of usual story. And that I had quite an emotional reaction to that. But then I also started learning more about the environmental impact of how we eat, and kind of starting to connect the dots and going, okay, if I want to do food, it's not really just about learning to cook and cooking for people. It's more about everything around food. It's like the stories that we can tell, the connection between the different aspects of, like you say, the ecosystems. So I don't think I really had a choice. I was shown that information and then just had a bit of an aversion to meat and never really didn't want to eat it again. So then ended up going and doing chef's training as a vegetarian, where everyone was laughing at me and they were like, what do you mean you don't eat meat, you know? And I was learning how to cook meat without tasting. And so it was a very interesting way to go into the industry. But I was then dedicated for for the next 10 years to just focus on plant-based food. And it's been an amazing thing to see evolve, because obviously now it's so much more widespread. You know, most restaurants have vegetarian options. There's still a long way to go, but there's a lot more awareness around why people are plant-based, or what the reasons for that is. But yeah, back in the day, it was very hard to find people who wanted to eat like that and who understood why I was doing what I was doing. But it was, I mean, it got going, and I was doing cooking classes for years. I was working on retreats. I was finding the people that wanted to eat that way, and just looking at food through that lens helped evolve my relationship to it. You know, it's constant. That philosophy is also constantly shifting. You know, as I learn more, I'm not as extreme about it. You know, I'm not so black or white. There's a lot of in between. Like the gray area is a great space for people to learn through, and is maybe more accessible to a lot of people. So it brought about lots of challenges, but also then pushed my creativity in such an amazing way, because you have these constraints, so you really have to learn how to work within those.
You trained at Stellenbosch University's Sustainable Development Program, graduating cum laude. How did that academic experience transition you from chef to food systems change maker?
I I mean, as I've just mentioned, the beginning stages of my career, there was a lot of passion behind what I was doing, and I really believed in the cause, and I wanted to share that with people. And the degree kind of rooted it in it, really like created a strong foundation to understand research skills, to know how to find the right information, to base all of my I guess what were beliefs are now fundamentals to my business. They are rooted in science. So before it was more what I thought and what I personally believed, whereas now I'm finding science to back up my food philosophy. And I think that's so much more important, because it's taking it away from my personal beliefs and making it something that is, yeah, it's rooted in truths. And the program was amazing in understanding, you know, what my the potential of my work as a chef can do. So being able to understand this much broader perspective on our food systems, we can look at the global food system, where things need to change, how we can impact things, and then it comes back down to the individual, how you cook in your kitchen at home, and seeing how the change can be impacted from both sides. So it just created a lot wider perspective for me. It really helped me understand where we are with our local food systems based on the global food system. So there's a lot more, like, you know, knowledge is creates power, it creates agency, it creates awareness, and through all of that can create change. So it just was invaluable in terms of the perspective it gave me.
How can one actually start? I'm a young South African, coming from unprivileged communities, and I want to get to the position of Arabella Parkinson. I want to take her own. I want to take her roots. I want to have this thriving. It's to thrive food in e-commerce platform. Um, how can I begin? How can I actually start? Should I actually go to college, or should I actually start making this online content about food? How can give us a masterclass of where to begin this amazing journey you're on right now?
I think it's a combination of things. I think following the thing that you're passionate about, and I have a feeling that's you connecting with entrepreneurs and interviewing and trying to learn. Like, I think being able to follow the thing that is driving passion. And I think what is amazing is we're living in a time where you could go to college, or you have this incredible access to information at your fingertips. You know, you've got AI kind of evolving rapidly. You've got YouTube, you've got all the things you can absorb information that can help drive your journey. But I think it's also a balance of, you know, maybe doing your own research, but then also putting yourself in environments that maybe feel slightly out of your comfort zone. Or I often think if you are scared of going into an environment, you should generally go into it, because it means there's something in you that's nervous, and the only reason you'd be nervous is because you feel like you're not capable, or that you actually do want to be capable in that environment. I often think if we look at other people and we're jealous of them, it's because they're doing something that you want to be doing, but you're not confident enough to be doing it. So looking at that and going like, okay, there's some environment that maybe I should try get an internship there, or maybe I should try and shadow someone, or maybe there's a short course that you can do. So to constantly be learning and to be challenging yourself, I think that's the best way, because if we stay in one environment which we get comfortable in, it's like a safety net, and you get complacent. So to just keep pushing, keep nudging yourself into challenging environments, and that's the fastest way you're going to learn, and that's the easiest way to see, you know, you go into an environment and you can immediately see, no, this is not how I want to do things, but I'm going to learn and understand their systems. Or you go somewhere else and you go, I feel great in this kind of environment, I'm going to learn, and then you start taking all these little lessons from the different things that you do, and your path will unfold in the way it's supposed to, as long as you are challenging yourself and doing what you're passionate about.
Yeah, they say you mustn't stop envying. Actually, you can actually start learning from them. It's easy to say, I want to be Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi
Yeah,
or uh but I don't want to mention Patrice Motsepe or whatsoever, but you have to actually look back. That's where they actually began. Even if you're looking at all these famous Sizwe guys, look at the beginning, look at the first
yeah,
video he created. You know, look at the first video, look at the second video, look at the third video. It was a platform that was online, right?
yeah,
And it's easy to say, oh, I want to be Arabella Parkinson, but are you ready to do those workshops?
yeah,
Are you ready to consistently create online content, improve yourself consistently? If you want to be Cristiano Ronaldo, so be on the field every day,
yeah.
avoiding unnecessary things that are actually going to, you know, destroy your career in some way. But Cristiano Ronaldo is always constantly
Yeah,
trying
man.
to improve himself. That's why he's at his age, but he's still doing what he's doing even now.
No, you're right. It's you can't want that without all the work that goes into it, you know. It's and as for entrepreneurship, it's you're working on your business more than, you know, hanging out with your friends and doing the fun things that maybe people who have a 9 to 5 will do, because I mean, I'm just finding there's just always things that need to be done. So I have to dedicate time to that, but then also know when to stop, know when to take a break. But the work is we can often want this big shiny career, but then think about, okay, well now I actually have to do something about it, and then that's often when people are like, okay, no, it's fine. So you're spot on. You need to want to work that hard to get to the place where the people that inspire you have gotten.
You've worked on remote research vessels at sea. What unique challenges and opportunities does that environment bring to sustainable cooking?
So many challenges. That work environment is like nothing I've ever experienced. It's tough. It's very, very tough. I mean, we were working doing research in the South Pacific, so we were moving from islands, you know, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, um, Hawaii, all of these places which don't have, it's not like they have an abundance of, they're all island nations. So where the food is coming from is getting imported from somewhere else. And every time we stopped to collect food, it was in a new place. So we were having to communicate with agents there, having to like, you're just improvising because you can get what you can get. So you can't really plan menus. You can't, yeah, you can't plan exactly what is going to be cooked, but you can plan in the way that you can source as sustainably as possible. I would focus on trying not to get certain types of seafood, trying to cook less beef, things like that, because obviously also I was a plant-based chef and I then was on a research vessel where I had to be cooking. There were so many different people from so many different countries that I can't go in there and be like, this is how we need to eat. I can explain the most sustainable way to consume meat, but I couldn't go and project my beliefs onto people who are from completely different cultures, different ways of life. So that was a big insight to be like, how do we eat sustainably within the confines of those parameters rather than just being plant based. And then also the what was the most interesting about that job is you would get food. So we had to order food for 3 weeks at sea, cooking for 40 people every single day. So big quantities. And the main thing was, once all the food was on board, how do you keep it fresh for the longest? How do you rotate the stock so that you aren't wasting anything? How do you turn leftovers from one meal into something for the next meal that the crew don't recognize? How do you keep it exciting without wasting, and making sure that you've got fresh produce until the last day you're at sea? So you're working within a closed system. You can't run out to the shops because you forgot to buy eggs. You have to be hyper organized and have really strong systems, but then have flexibility, and you need to adapt based on the produce that you get.
It's to drive is more branding. It's a lifestyle. Oh, it's more than branding. It's a lifestyle. What does driving mean to you in a daily practice?
I think uh, my understanding of this constantly shifts too, but I think that thriving on a day-to-day basis is being able to um, look after yourself, and that for me, the basic version of that is being able to eat wholesome, nourishing food every day. Especially as a chef, it's the thing that we struggle with the most because we're always cooking for other people. We often think of ourselves last and then don't have the energy to feed ourselves correctly. So my number one priority now is making sure that I'm eating my food cooked by me. I'm not ordering takeout. I'm not doing shortcuts. I'm making sure that I am nourishing myself, because I can't be telling everyone else how to do that if I'm not doing that for myself. Um, Getting into nature, whether it's 15 minutes in a day, that is a huge priority, because that just seems to slow everything down, get me out of my head and into my body. And then a meditation practice, which is for someone who's also got an overactive mind, who's always thinking of, what needs to be done. Um,
Sure.
Slowing down and learning how to kind of understand and control my thoughts has been one of the most
Mm.
powerful things. I think I'd be a very different person without that meditation practice.
Is that how you remove the noise, the negative um noises out there, the those, because I was once interviewing Tabitha Kobong, one of the first black women, African women to be into the interior design space.
Yeah.
She actually said to me when, before I interviewed you, she said, no, before you actually texted me, I was like, there's actually people out there, because when you're an artist, your head is always, you're always in your head, you know, you're just so shocked when the other people outside, because you're constantly thinking about your craft, you know,
Yeah.
you're constantly thinking about how to improve this, how to innovate this, and how to actually avoid ubani, who said this, who said that, because you're constantly trying to find your way, find your purpose, if I may
Mm.
say.
No, and the meditation helps with yeah, can't slowing all of that down, but also realizing that we are not our thoughts. We will always have thoughts coming and going and coming and going, and sometimes we latch onto a thought and we can't then get away from it. Sometimes thoughts don't have power over us, sometimes they do, but meditation is a way of, yeah, it's almost like you dusting yourself off. You're getting all the cobwebs, all the dust you've collected over the last day or the last 2 days off you, so that you feel like, oh, this is me. Not all the stuff
Mm,
that's going on in my head. The stillness is me, not the thoughts that are just being generated every second. So it does help you. And then often I find in those meditation moments, those are when all my best ideas arrive.
mm. I think there's this famous monk podcaster named Jay Shetty.
Yes.
He once said, "I'm not who I'm not who I think I am. I am what you think, or I'm not I'm who I think you think I am. So I'm actually measured by the perceptions of other people. So I actually view myself with the perceptions of what other people think of me, not what I think of myself. So those thoughts are actually in my head are not my thoughts. They're actually my thoughts
Yeah.
of your thoughts of how I think of myself. So it's actually a very uh you know, how can I put this? It's a very critical space to be in, into this world where you're now online. You should be online nowadays, actually, especially for yourself, where you're running this business. I'm sure you face negativity in your life. I want to get into the last question. What's a moment of doubt or failure that ended up shaping your career? Just closing off.
So when COVID happened, that was a very intense time because, I mean, within the space of a few days, all the work I had lined up for the rest of the year got cancelled. And um, and then that kind of shaped the trajectory of the next few years. You know, there was a lot of, I had to adapt, I had to learn as much as I could and just accept that business wasn't going to be the same as it was before COVID. And then during that time, I lost my sense of taste and smell as a chef. And that lasted for about a year and a half, where it was a very, very dull taste and smell. And I had a moment where I was like, I can't really tell anyone what's going on. This is my career that I can't say I don't know, I can't taste anything. And I just like dug my heels in and was like, I know what I'm doing. Like I then had to learn how to cook almost like blind, in the sense that like I had to trust that I understood flavor because I couldn't trust my palate. So I had to just keep cooking and going, this is now coming from an intuitive place rather than being able to physically feel what was going on. But that kind of catapulted it into a whole different field, because I was like, this thing that I've learned how to do is now so deeply ingrained in me that I can trust it. And that constraint and that struggle really helped. The times in our lives where we struggle are often the times where you're learning the greatest lesson. And so that's what I always try and take with me is, if I'm going through a challenging time, I'm like, you're always going to come out on the other side having learned something extremely valuable. So just allow it to happen. Keep your eyes open, slow down so that you can see exactly what it's trying to show you. And you will never come out empty handed.
Entrepreneurship is always a very tricky business. Um, and you know how hard it is to build. So I'm very honored to have you on the platform, and thank you so much for taking the time to avail yourself to actually speak with me. And I hope we're gonna be having these conversations in the future when I actually have a call and a sit down, proper sit down, and you can actually break down these concepts in a more briefer just yeah. So actually appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, Langelihle. It's been so good to chat to you, and I wish you all the luck and keep doing what you're doing, keep learning and keep chatting to people, and you're going to get exactly what you want.
Thank you so much.